from Sky Sports. Over to you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Vinny. I wonder if you might be able to provide us with an update on your team. Do you have any fresh injury concerns, and do you have an update on Aaron Ramsey?
No, I mean, I think the main update is Aaron Ramsey, and yeah, unfortunately for us, it was as bad as we thought, and definitely season over, and you know, maybe for the larger part of this year, he won't feature. So yeah, that's it's a bit of it's a blow for him, but it's part of a career, so we'll support him the best we can.
What specifically was the injury, if you don't mind me asking?
I don't want to go into specifics, but the main thing is he'll recover fully. So he'll make a full recovery. He'll be, he'll be an important player for us in the future. It's just unfortunate that it's happened at the time where he was coming through.
Earlier this week, Roy Hodgson stepped down as the manager of Crystal Palace, one of the most experienced managers in Europe. Yeah. I wonder if you or what your memories are of him and whether you had any specific interactions with him that spring to mind.
I mean, for me personally, it's I've played against his teams, obviously, but in this case, is to be able to manage and share the touchline with people of his experience. It's a privilege for me, and I remember that after the game at Turf Moor, he was quite generous with his time after the game, and we had a good chat. These guys are obviously full of experience in all sorts of situations, and yeah, I felt privileged to share the touchline with people like him, and I wish him well. I wish him health and happiness, of course.
What does it change about Crystal Palace having a new manager come in, Oliver Glasner? Do you know much about him, about his style, his tactical approach, for example?
Yeah, I mean, that side of it, nowadays we get all the opportunity to thoroughly analyze teams and whatever we want to analyze. So, of course, we've done that. And he's a coach with a lot of clarity in what he does. I think, every team he's set up so far is set up in a very clear way, with very with a lot of intent as well in their game, and yeah, but it's the Premier League, so every week we play against great managers and people trying to bring something to the league, and that's the beauty of this league.
Looking at the league table specifically, and where you are, if you are going to survive this season, is a game against Crystal Palace getting to the stage now where it is must win, just looking at the points and nothing else?
I think we have to have the approach that every game is a must win. The truth of it is, it's never as black or white. It's really about getting a run together. It's a must to get a run of results together. That's the must. The individual game in itself, it's an approach and an attitude you have to have towards it. But, the key thing for us, of course, is I don't think as well we can have the pretension and the arrogance to say, well, let's go to Crystal Palace and it's every game is tough for us. They're a good team with good players, and saying it's a must, it's a desire. Let's put it this way. And we face a good team, and we're building up towards this game to have full energy for the game.
You always are very calm, but obviously so much at this football club hinges on whether you stay in the Premier League or get relegated. Do you ever feel that pressure, the pressure of the club as the man leading it at the front?
I don't know. I've had to deal with pressure all my life, and I don't know any different. And I have in my mind that my life is with the positive outcome. That's what I live for. Every single day I'm working not towards the consequence of losing. I'm working towards the opportunity of winning. And then after that, every other consequence, as we explain, those things you plan for it at the beginning of the season, and that's what keeps you calm, because you say, okay, we've thought about this, we've discussed this, and this is our approach, this is our plan. If it fails, then we know as well what the next level is. But you live with the opportunity in your mind. That's what you work for.
And just finally, I know you speak to the chairman very regularly. Have those conversations changed at all as the season's gone on?
No, we're professionals. We you know, I think we all share the same passion and love for the club, and we're all 100% aligned only on one thing that is for us our key priority is getting the group over the line, making the team better, making the club better, and that's a very strong common goal.
Yeah, Pete.
Vinny, you talk about desire. How have you maintained that desire given your position in the league table? Has it been a struggle at times, delivering that message to the players week in, week out?
My goodness. You know what? To answer this question, it's a very deep answer. You know, it's where you come from. You know, where I come from is, my dad was a political refugee. You know, I had to flee a country, not just at war, but a dictatorship where he was, getting whipped in his 20s, because he was against the regime over there. It's fleeing from one part of the country to the other. It's losing family members. It's everything you've experienced is where I come from, the challenges I've experienced. And then you say, where does the drive and the desire come from? I have so many reasons to have that fire in me every single day. I have so many reasons why I can't ever do less, So it comes from a genuine place, and it's something far bigger than one result or a bad month or anything like this.
Therefore, maintaining that kind of level of emotion, and which we're very grateful for you sharing with us. Describe your kind of underlying emotions that have been with you throughout this season, because the bulk of your experiences, let's be honest, been winning things at the very highest level. This has been a challenge.
The bulk of the known experiences. Yeah. A poker player never tells you about his losses, right? Or a gambler never tells you about his losses. So that's what you see, but my experience is it feels different. I do feel I've had to, like I just mentioned to you, overcome and I've had to do a lot to get to where I was. So right now it's no different. It's you can. I'm not quoting anything that it's not something I've said, but it's something I heard recently. I can't remember the famous athlete that said it, but he spoke about winning and losing. Which one do you like? Which one do you? Are you driven because you hate losing, or are you driven because you love winning? And I think the response was neither. Your everything is a learning. You lose, you learn. You win, you learn. Then you spoke about desire, that willingness to grow yourself, but everything around you. That's what it's about in tough times and good times.
And just finally from me, in terms of the trip to Crystal Palace, talk about a new man in charge there. How does that affect match day preparation for you when it's a team taken charge by the manager for the first time?
It does, because usually you have your own processes, but you can watch the last 4, 5, 6, 7 games of the opponent, and you can start looking for finer details of weaknesses and strengths within that, and you can build a game plan that is where you have a fair amount of certitude of what you're about to face. And then that's the tactical side. It's still the players who have to perform. Obviously, with a new manager, you're having to probably take a slightly different approach. But in the end, like I said, on the day, both teams as well will have to the team that shows form and desire and that shows intent is a team with the biggest chance to win. It's as simple as that.
Thanks, Chanty. Radio Lancashire.
Vincent, you mentioned your dad's experiences growing up. Has that allowed you through your career to keep things in perspective?
I think so, yeah. My dad, my mom, it's and our own experiences. I do think it's important to have that notion, because you're kind of in a position where your job is the center of your life, and if you're lucky, you're able to match it with a healthy family life. But in general, it's you're that much focused on it 24/7 that keeping perspective can be difficult. So to have that discipline to to remind yourself to do that, it's really important. And then you start looking back at, you know, how you the idea that you have of yourself in moments like this, and you have to reflect it. The thing I can guarantee you is that the emotions that you have to convey as well in moments like this, it's important to have them in the moments when you're on the side of the pitch with your team, when you're, you know, in training sessions. But outside of it, it's important to keep a steady course, because you have a bad result usually, you know, the way it works in football is it kind of defines who you are for the week. So you can imagine after the Arsenal game, but in reality, it's also the strength of a team when you're able to move past this and not let it define you and continue on your path, and then you minimize the amount of times this can happen. We did it last year, and the version of it was in a successful season, but the habits remain the same even in a season where you're not successful.
Were you able to park Saturday's performance pretty quickly and draw a line under it, or have you spent part of this week reflecting back on it?
Yeah, you never park it, but you've got to use it. So have we been able to? It's as tough as it is, but you've got to use it. And the answer, I don't think the answer is in a press conference. I think the answer is always on the pitch. It's the next game, it's the game after that, and I think that's always that pressure that you live with in football, right? So you got when after bad games, performances, it could be at any level. The next game's always got higher stakes. It is what it is, and you have to learn to live with it. But for us, it's only on the pitch that matters.
What you're looking for on Saturday in particular, Vincent, is it first and foremost a performance, a response from last weekend?
Yeah, I think, look, if you mention the word performance, because I look back at it and I think Palace, we played them 16 games ago. So I think in the 16 games we've played, maybe 12 of those games you could have said it's a performance that can give you a result in the Premier League. You know, so the performance hasn't been the issue at the center of those last 16 games. It's results. So if you ask me what I'm putting first, yes, I believe that performance gives results, but it's results, you know. And anyway, in a way, we come into work every single day for that. That's our goal, of course.
And I think you're 12 points behind Palace. Do you think you can realistically catch them?
I don't think in those terms. I think in a much more simple way. They're our next game. And at the start of every game, you have a chance to win. I don't need much more than that.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Thanks, Scott. Let's go to Matt from the
Hi. We're not seeing much of Mike Trezor in recent games. Is he available?
Yeah, but he's had a few unfortunate things as well, where he's been ill and things like this. So, but you know, hopefully he'll be available for the weekend.
Mm-hmm. I think Josh Brownhill was the only player that started on last against Arsenal. That was here last season. Been quite an overhaul in the squad. Is it possible to say there's potentially too much change since last season?
I think the question you ask is part of a much bigger question, really, about the gap between the Championship and the Premier League, and just the different strategies you can find to try and close that gap. So I don't think the question is as simple as that. You know, every team is different in how it's composed when it comes up and how it goes when it goes down. The example of some of the teams that went down to the Championship with a lot of Premier League players playing in the Championship, so you could be fairly confident that if they come back up, they have I think in our case, we because it's a bigger question, we built a team in the Championship that was built to be good in the Championship. But when you come up, you're facing a totally different level, and part of the fact that we've had to do that. I'm sorry, I'm letting you in on a bigger question because it is something, probably not the right time to reflect on it, but just to set the context, you know, because those are things that we openly discuss every time. But part of the things that you have to take in considerations is that we we went down with a very small squad. I had what, 9 or 10 players in training in the championship when I signed. It wasn't 30 players in training and you have to trim it down. No, it was no players, and the few players that you think are those players that you have to sell them. And we rebuild an entire championship squad out of nothing. That was quite successful in the championship. It was quite a remarkable season. I think eventually in the future people appreciate the magnitude of the task we had that year. But to say that that team was ready to go from champ to Premier League just like this, there was just as little experience in the Premier League, in the championship team that we had last season to go to the Premier League as in the Premier League team we have this year. It is what it is. It's a reality. But okay, meanwhile, we've got 28 games in the Premier League, so we've built our own experience into the squad a little bit.
And can I just ask about Jordan Bear? How's he getting on? Is he any closer to returning?
No, it looks like he's progressing well. I don't want to put a date there, but hopefully pretty soon we'll have an important player back for us as well. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, man. Let's go to Pierre Media and Rory Dollard. Thanks.
In the last 3 weeks, you've played City, Liverpool, Arsenal. Looking into the next run of
and if you go back just even the 3 weeks before that, it was Aston Villa, Liverpool again, and Tottenham and so on. So yeah.
Well, the run's looking a little bit less dramatic than that. Do you think that those run of games has the players have learned something? They've steeled up to they'll be finding a bit more space in the game. The
moment you start making that assumption, in the Premier League, you get any team is capable of punishing you. Like we cannot have the arrogance of saying this, of picking our games. Of course, you're playing against the top sides. They're more ruthless than anyone. But for us, if we turn up, we know we always have a chance, and if we don't, we know we're not going to win a game if we're not in our best phase. And the key is to put yourself in that mindset to be in your best phase for the game.
And in terms of the review you've done of the game, looking at someone like Jay Rodriguez, the circumstances created a chance for him to come on. Did you see something in him, any sort of fire in the belly that you could work around, give the fans a lift? Somebody can help you raise it up.
If there's one thing that we won't lack is fire in the belly in this team. It won't. It's like I said, it's part of the Burnley DNA that doesn't leave. And in the end, as to continuing on really discussing the individuals, I think every single player in the team is just ready to play a part when they need to. They're all putting the result and the well-being of the club way before their own interests at the moment. The only focus we have is in the next 13 games to pick up points. And I'm sure that no matter who plays, he'll be happy for the other player if we win a game. It'll play out that way.
And for our last one from the open section, Brendan from the Spots.
Thank you. Cheers. Just one thing I kind of listened to that was quite interesting. My kind of thoughts was, you said your performances over the last 16 games, you had chances obviously to win with them. How do you turn those performances into wins? How do you get those kind of clutch moments and key moments go in your favour?
That's the $1 million question, right? It's how many managers have stood in front of journalists saying it's about both boxes. What happens in both boxes, how you're defending, whether you're heading the ball off your line or whether you're heading the ball, whether it's a diving headers and you score a goal. It's putting the ball in the back of the net and keeping it out of your net. I mean, that's I think in a nutshell part of it is belief, confidence, everything that goes with it. Part of it is experience and just adapting to the level as well. You never really quite know when it clicks or when it will happen, but you have to have the belief that the next game is when it happens, and then each game after that. We have had games where, we got results, and that's what needs to drive us for the next games.
And then just the last one, just to let you go, and all that was with the change at Crystal Palace obviously happening during the week. Can you see this as a potential for you getting that result to kickstart you going again?
I think that should not enter too much into our minds. I think, I could imagine that Palace sees it as a potential to get a result as well. Otherwise, why would you make the change? You understand? It is what it is. The main thing for us is is to be in our best possible shape for that day. That's the key thing. We do that. We know we can be a good team, and without that, there's teams who can get results without, with not having a necessarily good game. But for us, we need a little bit more than that.
Okay.